Poilievre calls on Carney to keep federal deficit under $42 billion in coming budget. So, Pierre Poilievre just sent Mark Carney a letter. Not a birthday card. Not a heartfelt apology. A political ultimatum wrapped in a bow made of tax cuts and deficit dreams. And folks, this budget showdown is about to get spicy. Buckle up because Canadian politics just entered its era of financial gladiators, and someone's not making it out of the arena intact. What's up, Canada Bulletin fam? Welcome back to the channel where we break down the chaos of Canadian politics so you don't have to suffer through parliamentary C-SPAN alone at 2 a.m. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button because we're about to dissect the latest budget drama that has Ottawa buzzing like a beehive someone just kicked. Today's tea? Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has basically slid into Prime Minister Mark Carney's DMs with a list of demands longer than a CVS receipt. He wants tax cuts. He wants the deficit capped at $42 billion. And he wants it all in the upcoming budget. The problem? That ship has already sailed, crashed into an iceberg, and is currently being studied by marine archaeologists. Because, spoiler alert, the deficit is projected to hit nearly $70 billion this year. That's not a typo. That's not a fever dream. That's Canada's economic reality in 2025. Let's break this down. But first, let's talk about what Poilievre actually wants. And trust me, it's a lot. Pierre Poilievre released a letter on Monday that essentially reads like a political wish list written by someone who thinks the government has a magic money wand. And honestly, the audacity is kind of impressive. In the letter, Poilievre painted a picture of Canada that's bleaker than a November day in Winnipeg. He said, and I quote, "Canada has become a country of empty bank accounts, empty fridges, and empty stomachs." Wow. Tell us how you really feel, Pierre. Nothing says, "I care about Canadians," like describing the entire nation as one massive empty brand commercial. But here's where it gets interesting. Poilievre isn't just complaining. He's making demands. He wants income tax cuts, check. Capital gains tax cuts, check. Abolish the carbon tax, big check. Slash home building taxes, another check. And the inflation tax. Wait, that's not really a thing, but okay. Kill the federal fuel standard. Because apparently emission reduction policies are so 2024. And then he had the nerve to say, "Feel free to steal our ideas." In action, not just talk. Pierre, buddy, that's not how political negotiations work. You can't just send a Christmas list to the PM and expect him to play Santa Claus with the federal budget. Although, to be fair, that would make for better reality TV than anything currently on Netflix. Now, you might be wondering, Canada Bulletin, what does Carney think about all this? Great question. Let's find out. Here's the thing about Mark Carney's budget plans. They were dead on arrival the moment the parliamentary budget officer dropped his estimate. Jason Jacques, interim PBO and official bearer of bad news, predicted the deficit will balloon to nearly $70 billion for this fiscal year. Let me put that in perspective. Poilievre wants $42 billion. Reality says $70 billion. That's a $28 billion gap. That's not a rounding error, folks. That's the GDP of a small country. That's enough money to buy every Canadian a pretty decent used car. Or, fund essential services. But I digress. Carney has already signaled that the deficit will be higher than the Trudeau government's last estimates from almost a year ago. Translation. Sorry, Pierre, but we're operating in a different economic universe than the one you're imagining. But wait, there's more. Carney has pledged billions in new defense spending to hit NATO's magical 2% of GDP target. Because nothing says fiscal responsibility like promising to spend less while simultaneously promising to spend more. It's economic alchemy, baby. Turn that deficit into a bigger deficit. I'm confused, but the vibes are there. And Poilievre? He's not buying it. In his letter, he wrote, "You claim that big deficits are investments. That is exactly the alchemy Trudeau promised." Ouch. That's a burn hotter than a Tim Hortons coffee you forgot was in your cup holder. Asterisk. Okay, so we've got Poilievre demanding fiscal discipline and Carney promising big spending. But here's where things get really interesting. The politics. Asterisk. All right, grab your popcorn because this is where Canadian politics becomes a high-stakes game of political jenga, and someone's about to pull the wrong block. The Liberals are a minority government. They're 3 votes shy of passing legislation on their own. This budget is a confidence matter. If they lose the vote, the government falls, and we're all heading to the polls for another election. Nobody wants that. Well, except maybe Pierre Poilievre, who's probably been practicing his victory speech since 2023. So who holds the power here? Let's meet our players. The Bloc Québécois asterisk 22 seats of pure Quebec leverage. They've laid out 18 demands, 6 of which are essential for their support. Top of the list? $814 million for Quebecers to account for the carbon rebate they never got because Quebec has its own carbon pricing system. They also want higher old age security payments for seniors under 75, increased health transfers, and a whole infrastructure wish list. Basically, they want to be paid to vote yes. The NDP asterisk 7 seats of cautiously optimistic progressivism. Interim leader Don Davies met with Carney and emerged from that meeting with the vaguest political statement of the year. We won't support an austerity budget. Cool, Don. Super specific. Very helpful. He wants more healthcare spending, affordable housing, and unionized jobs. Also, he doesn't think Canadians want an election, which, honestly, fair. The Conservatives, they're playing the long game. In the spring, they actually helped the Liberals pass the One Canadian Economy Act, which gives the feds fast-track powers for projects deemed in the national interest. Poilievre says his party will cooperate on ideas they agree with. But will they vote yes on this budget? Magic 8 Ball says, outlook not so good. So what happens on November 4th when Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne tables this budget? Let's predict the chaos. November 4th. Mark your calendars, folks. That's when Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne drops the federal budget like it's a mixtape nobody asked for, but everyone has to listen to. Here's my prediction. The budget will try to please everyone and satisfy no one. It'll have some defense spending to make NATO happy, some social spending to appease the NDP, maybe a Quebec-sized olive branch for the Bloc, and absolutely zero of what Poilievre wants. Because why would the Liberals give their main opponent exactly what he's asking for? The next few weeks in the House of Commons are going to be tense. Picture a family dinner where everyone's mad at each other, but they still have to pass the mashed potatoes. That's Canadian Parliament right now. Will the budget pass? Probably. Because as much as everyone loves to threaten an election, nobody actually wants one. Elections are